Good evening. Welcome to the May meeting of the Lynbrook Board of Education. As always, Mr. Yeager will lead us in the pledge to the flag. Please all rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Terry, all are present. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of the April 20th regular meeting? Ms. Hanson was not present. Mrs. Marcus, second. Mr. Pulaski, all in favor? It's in my notes to say it. I love you. I love you anyway. You just can't vote. Regarding Art Gallery, the gallery for the month of May will feature the district work from the 2021 Nassau All-County Virtual Art Exhibit. If you could play the video now, please, we'd appreciate it.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Art Supervisors Association searched for an alternative way to host this year's exhibition. In early April, all the students' artwork was displayed online in a virtual gallery space. This virtual space created the opportunity for even more people to attend this year's exhibition. Although this year's show is completely virtual, the Lynbrook School District was proud to feature 33 students from grades K through 12. To see a list of this year's all-county artists and their amazing artwork, please click on the Burn Seidemann Gallery link on the high school page. Congratulations to this year's artists.
Thank you for that. We're also proud to announce tonight we have some new staff joining us. When I call your name, if you can please stand up. Anderson Oliva, elementary school teacher at Marion Street. Welcome. Julia Bonacasa, elementary school teacher at Marion Street. Josie Botwinick, elementary teacher at Waverly Park. Although not present, we also have two more. Anna Tribble is a long-term substitute teacher at Waverly Park and Marion Street, and Nicholas Musto is a long-term substitute science teacher at South Middle School. Dr. Burek, do you have some presentations this evening?
Sure, and we just saw that wonderful art gallery exhibit that it's amazing with all of that talent that every year Nassau County does pick a special candidates to receive an Art Supervisors Association scholarship and recognize them for their outstanding artwork. And this year, one of Lynbrook's own is the recipient of the Nassau County scholarship, and that is Jolie Orbetta. Is Jolie here? There we go. Come on, Jolie. It's just amazing how this year, every aspect, every organization reimagined how they did things. So the All-County Art Exhibition usually takes place at a college, and you can see the work firsthand, and it was all done virtually. So we congratulate Jolie for her recognition for her outstanding project. The theme this year was art spaces, so congratulations again, Jolie. Not to be outdone by art, we have also the Long Island Science and Engineering competition. We had students participate in that also during this very difficult time, and I'm very proud to say we have quite a few winners who took first place and took special awards. So let me start with the first place. IST, in the category of IST, we have an Earth and Environmental Science category, first place winner, and Math and Physics and Astronomy, first place winner, both Ashley Roth and Catherine Pastiglione. Congratulations. Hold on 1 minute, because in the special award categories for environmental protection from the Society of the EPA, that recognizes students for projects in environmental science and engineering, Ashley Roth was recognized for that. And for the NASA Earth System Science Award, which recognizes students' advances in space and aeronautics to enhance knowledge, innovation, economic vitality, and stewardship of Earth, we had 2 winners. We've received special awards, and that's Catherine Pastiglione again and Ryan Marioni. Congratulations. Come on up.
Dave.
Congratulations again to all.
Now I'm going to show you a magic trick, how I can make half the room disappear. Before we break into our, we're going to end our regular meeting and start the budget session. We're going to welcome those students and the new staff members to take leave and enjoy the rest of their evening. Abracadabra. Oh my God. Leslie. I was freezing in there. I was freezing in there. I'm freaking sweat. It's hot. I know, we were sitting right under it. All right. I'm better than I thought. That was more than half.
Cleared out more than half.
Well, do you see the people in the back that they said bring us pickleball signs in the back? Dr. Lynch, give us pickleball.
What's that? It's pickleball. Yeah.
Do I bring that up during budget? At this time, we are going to close the regular meeting and commence the budget hearing. Dr. Lynch.
Before we turn it over to Dr. Lynch, once again, I just want to thank all of the stakeholders who helped put together this budget. We have been sharing with the community since February the development of the budget, and then when we received the new state aid package, we used some of the additional funding, bless you, some of the additional funding to lower the tax levy even more so below the allowable tax cap. So we're putting forth a solid budget that maintains our programs, adds special education component, adds more staff development in some key areas that we're focusing on, and all lower than the allowable tax cap. So I just want to thank Dr. Lynch for putting it all together, and he is going to now share the components of the budget with everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Burak. I'm just going to ask Kayla to put up the slideshow, and then I'm going to talk through it. So what has just happened here, just so you know, there's a lot of formality in tonight, and there's a lot of legal requirements that are being occurring at this very moment. So technically, Mr. Belmont just ended the other meeting and started a new meeting. This new meeting is a requirement of education law. It is the mandated budget hearing that must take place sometime within 14 days of the budget vote. A couple of other legal obligations are also accomplished tonight. On the agenda, the board will be adopting a reserves plan for 2022. That will be published on the website effective tomorrow morning. Also on the website as of right now is a proposed budget statement, which has all the required attachments in it as prescribed by law, and that is where you can see all the detail on the status of the schools and our fiscal accountability. Also, the budget itself is on the website. And finally, starting tomorrow morning, the budget notice will be on the website, and that will also be being mailed to all voters in the community. So this starts a big timeline. That's really what that comes down to. So if we're just going to go, Kayla, for the next slide, take a look at the presentation format. So tonight we're going to have a couple of things that we look at. We're going to look at the highlights of the budget. We're going to look at the expenditure summary, our revenue projections, some other propositions we would like the voters to consider, and then also, as required by law tonight, I will be presenting the budget in 3 parts. Next slide, Kayla. So budget highlights. I think Dr. Burak just brought out a very good point. This budget was prepared with one set of budget assumptions, and it has ended with another set of budget assumptions. So on February 24th, we presented a balanced budget. One of the goals of all the principals and the directors was we were anticipating, if you remember far back then, a 20% decrease in state aid. So we basically set out the expectation to the principals and the directors, come in at zeros or less than zero. That is really what we need you to do. We did not want to touch programs at all. The important thing was that people may look at equipment and some projects that could be delayed and presented the budget. The board adopted that budget on March the 10th. What occurred after that is the state adopted its budget, and there was a whole, not only was there not a 20% cut in aid, there was an increase in aid. And as a result, we had to restate revenue at the April 20th board meeting. But in all, the same budget priorities that we had back in February remain the same budget priorities. That is an additional special education class at the elementary level, the purchase of book selections from diverse perspectives to offer student choice, and continued staff development for technology, special education, and reading. Okay, Kayla, if we could now get into the individual departments, we'll now go department by department, basically mirroring how the budget is run here at Lynbrook. So the first budget we're going to look at are the instructional buildings. Those are the schools. Those are the principals' budgets. Principals' budgets include furniture, supplies, clubs' activities, and supervision. We see a decrease of $41,637. That is a decrease of 4.71%. As I indicated before, it's important to note that no programs were touched. What was important here is that the principals said, you know, I normally buy tables, I normally buy chairs. They chose not to do that this year, and that is why we see the decrease there. Next slide is central administration, where you're going to start to hear a little repetition of the same thing. There's going to be, a decrease there of $22,595, a decrease of just slightly less than 0.5%. What things are handled by central administration? Transportation, district insurance, tutoring, staff development, our legal services, and our BOCES occupational education programs. Once again, without touching a program, we were able to shave that money off of the central administration budget, principally by looking at equipment codes and some special projects. Facilities, similarly structured, a decrease of $167,214, a decrease of 5.63%. What is included in the facilities budget are oil and our gas, water, security, and special projects. Again, we're able to keep all of our normal maintenance functions, our preventative maintenance functions moving forward nicely. We're just simply delaying some other equipment purposes for next year. If we take a look at the communications department, IT, technology, whatever we're calling it these days, it's everything. This is an increase, obviously, due to the pandemic. We have invested a lot of money into technology, and we need to continue to invest money into technology. We'll see an increase of $33,123, a 2.14% increase. Some of the exciting things that happened because of this increase in technology. We have our learning management systems. Dr. Belekas, I'm going to mess this up. It's either Schoology or Schoolology. I don't know what. Schoology, okay. We're going to call it. I can pronounce Seesaw, though. So that's Schoology and Seesaw. Those we bought last year, but they never hit the budget. We need to see them realize the budget, and that's the big increase here. Another exciting project is every teacher desktop is proposed to be replaced, and will be replaced with brand-new i7 processors with webcams, ready, please God not, but for another remote or other exciting things that can be done with this new power. So that's some exciting stuff moving forward. Fine and performing arts on the next slide is a slight increase of $2,473. Again, we have always said that this is an incredible community for the arts, as we can see by the art gallery. It's an incredible community for music, and it's all done at a very reasonable cost. So kudos. Athletics and health, a decrease of $12,462. All sports are still running, all intramurals are still running. No problems with that. Really, you see the decrease because we didn't have sports at the end of last year. We have some additional supplies that are in closets right now, so we really don't have to buy them. So that's why you're going to see a decrease there. A technical thing that happened in the budget this year is health is formally now under Mr. Martellotti. It is the Athletics and Health Department, and it has been for a few years, but we codified that in actually giving all of the health codes over to that department. So that's just a little technical thing for disclosure tonight. If we continue on to special education, a decrease of $417,130. That represents a decrease of 5.47%. For those of you that have been watching these budget hearings for a couple of years, you know this has not been our pattern. We have been seeing large increases in special education over the last couple of years. We looked very carefully at our related services codes. We looked very carefully at our tuition codes. And again, without cutting any program, without doing any harm to the program itself, we think that we can safely save about $417,000 just by really taking a hard look at the budget actuals versus where we're at. So that was some good news there. Guidance is our next department. This is a horrible increase, $97. So that's we don't have to worry about that one. That's a new department. It started last year. One substantive change to the department is it now includes the career development job coaches, which were formerly in my budget, but they now moved to guidance. One of the rules of budgeting, and I think this makes sense to folks, is bills should be paid by those who know what's happening. So Mrs. Mitchell is able to verify those hours of the job coaches, and now it's going to be residing in her budget. Let's take a look at debt on the next slide. A decrease of $49,563, a 2.67% decrease. That's a good question would be, why are we seeing a decrease in debt? Last year we had a projection. We didn't have an actual. It was before we actually sold the bonds. So we had a good projection, and when we actually went out to sell the bonds, we did better than our projections. So now you're going to see that new number there of the $1.8 million. We now know what the debt will be for the next 20 years, so every time on this slide coming up, it's going to be an exact number, and you'll probably see very little fluctuation there. Interfund codes. This is a technical thing that only school business officials and superintendents who used to be school business officials actually appreciate. What we do is we take money from the general fund and we transfer it for special purposes to the special aid fund and to the capital funds. We see a large increase here of $467,934. Principally because, and this is, I do want to point this out, we are anticipating spending $605,000 on capitals facilities projects. These are capitals facilities projects that are approved when you vote on the budget. So they are part and parcel of the budget. The reason why I need to disclose this so carefully right now is that is an important number when we come to the calculation of the tax cap. You're going to see later that doesn't matter for this year, but we really need to disclose this, that these are the projects that when you vote on the budget, you're also voting for additional American with Disabilities Act renovations that are needed to be done along with the Marion Street elevator project, and we want to continue with the replacement of the roofing here at the high school. Special programs, that's adult education, driver's ed, summer high school, summer playground, a slight increase of just over $1,000, mostly due to just the contractual increases. Salaries are the next category. That is a $901,759 increase, 1.86%. So with the principals and the directors bringing in their budgets really below level, we are not only, this is a good thing to be able to say in the pandemic, we're not simply maintaining programs, we're increasing programs. We are adding a 1.0 Committee on Special Education chairperson, which was discussed right here by this board a few months ago. We're adding an additional 1.5 elementary special education teacher, 2 elementary teacher assistants, an additional elementary teacher aide, and then I don't know if you noticed, but there's some new construction next door, and it's going to need to be cleaned next year, so we're going to have to add a custodian and a cleaner. So all of that is included in the salary numbers. If we take a look at benefits, those of you that were listening last year, we saw the very rare decrease in benefits. It just almost never happens, and here it's not happening. We're going to see an increase of $783,781, just shy of 4%. The reason for that has a lot to do with increases in health, increases in pension contribution, and most significantly, increases in retiree health costs. So that's some of the stuff that we keep our eye on, but that just is where that ends up this year. So let's take a look at how we reduce costs and how what steps we take. So for the next slide, Kayla. There we go. Okay. So what we do every year is cooperative bidding with other districts for transportation. We're part of the Southwest Quadrant. Cooperative bidding for facilities projects through the Nassau County Director of Facilities Cooperative. We're a member of the New York State Insurance Reciprocal, and we make agreements with our local village to share fuel for the district vehicles. So those are some of the ways we reduce costs. The 3-part budget summary. So once again, as provided by law, another technicality that we need to break out the budget to say how much we're spending in each specific area. For those of you who are really interested, I ask you to please go to the website. There is a detailed 3-part budget there that you can really see it in graphic detail. But we'll see that approximately $8 million of next year's budget is proposed for administrative reasons. That translates to about 8.67% of the budget. The program budget, which is instruction, which is the heart of what we do, the educational program, is $71.4 million, or 76.89% of the budget. And capital needs, which are the ongoing costs that are amortized, are $13.4 million, coming to an overall budget of $92,907,426, a budget-to-budget increase of 1.62%. So, if we could go to the next slide, we need to restate our revenue. So these were different numbers on February 24th. We presented at the last board meeting revised numbers, and that is the official numbers that are now going out to the voters, and of which we are presenting tonight. So we see some of them didn't change. Driver education, summer school are the same as they were. However, let's take a look at summer playground. Dr. Burek at our last meeting gave a very great explanation about this. We're lowering the revenue estimate there because the program is going to be smaller. And rather than raise the cost, we're going to decrease the expected revenue. And we think that's a fair thing to do for the community at this time. So that's one of the ways that we're using our increase in state aid. Health charge to other districts, rentals, miscellaneous are all pretty much as they were presented back in February. The pilot, Mr. Pascal's favorite topic, payments in lieu of taxes, that does not change at $4.7 million. Our billing to other districts for special ed services provided at Our Lady of Peace at the Chabad are estimated at about $15,000. We've had to revise interest one more time. So if you were here 2 years ago, we were projecting $300,000, $400,000 worth of interest. You could just look at your own money markets and know that that's just not the case anymore. So we see that being revised down to $30,000. And then the use of reserves is also, we decided we had a higher use of reserves. We're just going to restate that to $1.2 million. So you can see the projected local revenue at $6,697,891. So now if we can go to the next slide, we can do a revenue summary. So here's the big story. Revenue from state aid. At the budget hearing, at the budget work session back in February, that was projected at $11.4 million. You're now seeing $12.7 million. That's a large increase. On the other slide, you saw some of the things that we trended down, the interest, the summer playground. Those are some of the things that we're using it for. But the big effect here is going to be a reduction of the levy. So our local revenue of $6.6 million is what I showed you on that other slide. Fund balance is what we use from this year's budget and apply to next year's budget. That remains at the $1.5 million. But the tax levy, as proposed back in February, was over $72 million. We were proposing at that time to meet the allowable tax cap, which was 1.88%. Instead, we would like to propose a levy of $71,922,469. I total it all up there for those of you accountants sitting at home who always like to see balanced budgets. We now see revenues matching expenses. That's very important for people like me. Let's see that effect on taxes on the next slide. So what does this mean? That the levy, rather than going out at the allowable tax cap of 1.88, we're proposing a 0.98% increase in the tax levy. Therefore, using the bulk of the money that comes from the state to preserve programs, keep the budget exactly the same, but to give relief to the taxpayer next year through the lowering of the levy. The board discussed that here, and it was in full agreement of that. So we are well below the maximum allowable tax limit. So everything I've talked to up to now is what will translate to Proposition 1 on the budget. When you vote for the budget, Proposition 1, everything I've said to now is what you're voting on, that $92 million budget. Everything I talk about from here on in are separate propositions. So if we could talk a little bit about Proposition 2, which is the next slide. So the district has funds in reserve. We have, if you want to think about it, a big savings account that we have. However, we're not allowed to spend it without asking voter permission. Proposition 2 is asking voter permission to spend $600,000 from the Technology Replacement Fund for the following purposes. We'd like to redo the network infrastructure. That would be the switching architecture in the walls of the building that connects the computers to the internet. We'd also like to, with this money, replace the wireless network within the district. We have our replacement cycle. We're proposing $160,000. That's also going to be supporting the desktop replacement program that I mentioned on the other slide. And $40,000 for kindergarten touchscreens. If you have been inside a Lynbrook elementary school, you'll see that we got rid of the starboards in the last 2 years, and instead we have these nice touchscreen TVs. We'd like to take that, it's 1 through 5 right now, we'd like to move that down to the kindergarten center. So we ask the voters to approve that. If that amount is voted forward, there will still be $761,625 remaining in that reserve. And remember, this is a separate proposition. It does not affect the tax levy at all. It's simply permission to use funds that we already have. Similarly, Proposition 3, we have capital funds that are used for our grounds and the maintenance of our buildings. We are proposing to the community $2,435,904 for the following purposes. $1.6 million for a turf field at North Middle School, and $783,780 to replace the handball courts, the basketball courts, and the handball, basketball, tennis at Waverly Park, and Mr. Belmont is lobbying for a pickleball? Okay. Again, that does not affect the levy at all, and if that money is approved, we will still have $3.2 million left in our remaining capital funds for the purposes of facilities. So if we take a look at the budget summary tonight, the proposed budget amount is $92,907,426. That is a budget-to-budget increase of 1.62%. We're proposing a tax levy of $71,922,469, a 0.98% increase over last year's levy. The date of the budget vote is May 18th, a Tuesday, district-wide. We ask you to go out and vote.
Thank you, Dr. Lynch. Any questions from the board? I know every year, Dr. Lynch and Dr. Burek and the staff, we see the same thing. It's one of our least attended meetings, which is just a reflection on how well, as administration, this issue is handled. I don't think anyone really understands, except for those doing it, everything from your staff, from the teachers and the principals and working their way up to administration, understand how much is involved and how many restrictions we have. And again, we don't even talk about the fact of the unfunded mandates and unreasonable restraints put on us by the government, but it's always an excellent job. It's one of the main things that keep our district moving forward every year, and it's, as a board member, it's a great comfort level to know that this area is always handled so well. So thank you very much to you and your staff for that every year.
I just want to clarify one point. Don't have my glasses on. Let's see. Okay. The special education budget, which goes down despite the fact that we continue to grow staff and continue to add students to our capacity, that is really the result of actually bringing more students back. It's one of the few times where you grow capacity and in doing so kind of lower your expenses.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of reasons, but that would be one of them. That is one of them. So you would see when we add a class, as we're going to do, that is saving on outside tuitions. That's the comparison between those actuals and the projected.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, if anyone from the community would like to address the board on a budget-related matter, please approach. In that there are no questions from this very large crowd, we are now going to close the budget hearing and move back to reopening the regular meeting. I will advise, though, that the budget vote and school board election vote is May 18th. Individuals may register to vote in the district clerk's office Monday to Friday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. The last day to register to vote is May 12th. We'll have registration on that date in the high school small gym from 4 to 9 p.m. Enter through the Carpenter Street doors in the back of the building. It wasn't my idea. This is all Terry. Please contact the district clerk, Teresa.Moran, at lynbrookschools.org at 516-887-6558 if you would like an absentee ballot application. This year, fear of contracting COVID-19 is a valid reason to request an absentee ballot by checking the temporary illness box on the form. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on May 18th. That woman just likes to generate work for herself. Moving on to reports from trustees. The policy committee met on Monday night. Mr. Yeager, can you provide us with an update?
The policy committee met on Monday night. It was Dr. Burek, it was myself, Mr. Pileski, and Ms. Hanson. Essentially, we reviewed the dense documents that we've received from the state on harassment, bullying, diversity, inclusion. It was our first meeting on all this stuff. we have a lot more to discuss. I mean, we were able to we're going through it with a fine-tooth comb, really trying to discuss all the fine points, and we're going to set up another date to really just, before we present anything to the board, there's just a lot to go through before we even present anything. So we're going to set up another a date to meet again, and then we'll have something ready for you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager. Anything else to report from the board, Mr. Pascoff?
Sure. I had the pleasure of actually attending in person the Honor Society induction, and it was really nice to be back in person. It's nice always to see the kids because you see a lot of the same kids that are getting inducted into Honor Society, that are playing sports, that are doing music. It's really nice to see how well-rounded a lot of our kids are. And congratulations to Mrs. Danino, whose 2 children were one inducted and one re-inducted, and Mr. Yeager, whose daughter was also inducted. Congratulations to you guys. Oh, and Mr. Belmont's daughter. Sorry, re-induction of Mr. Belmont's daughter.
But remember, it was draft night.
And I also donated blood on Saturday for the blood drive. That was a lot of fun. I always enjoy that.
Seeing nothing else on the board, we have no business tonight. Moving on to new business, the Nassau-Suffolk School Board Association budget and election of officers. By a show of hands, who is in favor of voting for this budget and the slate of officers we previously discussed? Okay. That's unanimous. And Dr. Burek, your superintendent's report.
Thank you. It's time now for the May update on all things COVID and how we're handling upcoming events. With the spring upon us, there's much to brighten us up and look forward to as we prepare for the end of the year. This upcoming Friday bulletin will share the graduation and moving up ceremony dates and locations for all of our buildings. The principals and PTAs are working very hard to make these events special for our students. New York State has issued extensive guidance as to how to conduct these events based on the size and venue for each event. You will notice all of the events are slated to take place outside at their respective building locations, except the KC and the high school events will both take place at Marion Street School. Each graduate will be able to have 2 attendees. This has been consistent guidance from the state as information rolled out during the year as well. We must also obtain contact tracing information and conduct health screening questionnaires. Given the size of most of these events, proof of vaccination or testing will be required for all participants. Please know I am just the messenger as I share that information with you. That is outlined in the guidance. If you are vaccinated, that is obviously will make the process run more smoothly. If you need to be tested, however, we have arranged dates with around-the-clock testing. I had mentioned that organization earlier in the year to come on site and conduct testing for us. The actual dates for the testing will be based on that 72-hour period before each event. I will have the listing of all of those testing dates in this coming Friday bulletin too. So this would be a bulletin you want to put up on your refrigerator door if you can. And you can log on. There will be a link of how you can actually provide your information, and the testing site will actually be Lynbrook High School. So we'll have everything all at one site, but we've arranged for that. Hopefully that will make a family's life a little easier by providing that service that is dictated by the state. Please also keep in mind that should our graduation week consist of several rainy days, all of the graduations have rain dates also, and that caused for a lot of shuffling of different things around in different times. And then if the entire week is rainy, we obviously have to move our events inside, and there will be, unfortunately, more restrictions based on that. However, let's be positive that we can get through that and have all wonderful outside events. Keep in mind, this is May 5th, so a lot could happen. You know, again, the governor is going to, in 2 weeks, be probably loosening up more restrictions, so maybe this all can change. Maybe they will change the testing, but we just wanted to make sure you knew we were planning on doing this to help you and that we have it under control. But time will tell, and as we've been all year, flexible and resilient, we continue to do so.
Dr. Berg, so for someone to attend, for a parent to attend their child's graduation, they have to be tested, or I believe it indicates they have to be vaccinated.
Correct.
What is the requirement of proof of vaccination?
They have to show the
So
card.
they're supposed to bring their card when they show
Correct.
up?
Correct.
Can I
Um, Just know that the only graduation that we don't need to do that for is Waverly Park, just based on the size.
You know, just to let the community know, it's very easy to get the vaccine passport that you can have on your phone.
Yes.
It gives you a QR code, and it gives you a little identification card. Very easy to get, and it took about 2 minutes. And they have your information already anyway, so it's not like they're invading your privacy or anything like that. They already have your information, and that's how they affirm that it's you. They ask you what date you had your COVID vaccination, and it gives you a list of dates, and you have to pick the right one, otherwise it's not you.
Dr. Burek, is there a cost for the COVID testing for the parents?
It's going to go through the insurance again, like originally.
Okay, and someone doesn't have insurance?
That around the clock, just like the last time, around the clock, would have to work that out with them. They submit that reimbursement, you know, they take all the information and then they do, that's all on their end,
Who is they?
around the clock. So
That's
they
it.
would have to, so they,
That's the name of the
Yes.
vendor.
Okay.
But what if a parent doesn't have insurance, and would that preclude them from
No.
getting
No,
tested?
anybody wants to get tested,
And
get
it's up to around
tested.
the clock to submit the reimbursement to be, they're still outlaying the money, but it's up to them now to submit reimbursement.
Okay, so no one's going to be turned away from being tested?
No one's going to
And
be
just know also,
turned
the
away.
vaccines are free also, so you can get tested, and if you believe in if you want to get a vaccine, you can go to CVS and get that for free, and they have, all the CVS's by
Correct,
us
but
have
that wasn't
appointments
my
all day long.
question. My question
No, I'm
was
just
about
letting people know, at the same
testing.
time, if they want a vaccine, it also has
Right,
no cost to
Right, but
them.
if someone isn't vaccinated.
they wanna get
and
a test, they get it for free.
tested, They won't be turned away.
Right.
I mean, the mask mandates for outside, there's been changes to that already. So I can only imagine that there hopefully will be some changes to this going forward. And I do think we need to continuously put pressure on our legislators to keep pushing for changes for these outdoor.
For reasonable changes, because it's absurd to say only 2 people can come. If grandma and
Correct.
grandpa are
Reasonable
vaccinated, they
changes.
can't come watch, they can have a graduation, is
Correct.
absurd.
Correct, at an outdoor venue, you know, there should be reasonable changes, and I think
There
that,
should be better leadership
you
in
know,
Albany.
hopefully, our community's watching tonight, and if we're flooding with calls, you know, if every single person in Lynbrook who has a child graduating could pick up the phone and call, you know, the senator's office tomorrow and flood the governor with emails every single day from every district on Long Island, there could be change.
Absolutely.
We just all have to advocate for this.
Okay. Also, speaking of flexibility, though, we are now up to Phase 5 of our reopening task force, and I hope this will be the 5th and final phase of the reopening task force. Before this month concludes, we will hold our first meeting of this new phase, and we hope to focus on a full return for all students. Building logistics will be discussed at all levels. Specifics will include adjusting to a full student body return while safely allowing for lunch, internal travel to and from classes, field trips, volunteers in the buildings, and more. So there's a lot returning back to normal and how we're going to handle all that to make it all happen. So that will be really the charge of the Phase 5 of the committee. We will not have final guidance from the state, unfortunately, but I hope the committees will be able to propose recommendations so that when we do receive the guidance from the state, all we do need is a little tweaking over the summer when that guidance will come. In June, those families who are still remote will be receiving a letter from the district. We hope that you plan on sending your children back to in-person learning in September, but we need to know your intentions. The letter will contain a quick survey asking you if you plan on doing so. Our Phase 5 committee will need that information to continue the planning process for September. Now on to summer. Before we even get to September, we will be running our summer playground program, as I have previously mentioned at a prior board meeting. We will also be running our summer high school program, and we're going to run another special program that I'm going to turn over to Dr. Balekis for that as part of his curriculum update.
Thank you, Dr. Guerra. As mentioned in last week's bulletin, turn it off.
No, it's not.
I'm hoping this one's better. That sounds better. All right, so as mentioned in last week's bulletin, we're very excited to offer a summer academy consisting of 3 one-week sessions for students currently in grades pre-K to 7. This academy will provide students opportunities to hone their ELA and math skills through exciting and engaging in-person activities. Each week consists of 4 days, Monday through Thursday, from 8:30 to 11 a.m., and they'll all be centered around different themes. The first week will be entitled Game On. It'll be from July 12th to July 15th, and we will be delving into the wide world of sports. During the second week, from July 19th through the 22nd, World Traveler will invite students to virtually travel the world and learn about other cultures. The third and final week, from July 26th through July 29th, will be called Be a Buddy, and it will emphasize friendship and cooperation. Students can select to participate in 1, 2, or all 3 weeks, and the cost for each week will be $30. Spots will be limited, and priority will be given to students whose academic progress we've been monitoring throughout the school year. Be on the lookout for the flyer and registration information at the end of next week. Thank you.
Thank you. That's going to be an exciting program for us. And now turn it over to Dr. Lynch for a capital projects update.
So on the agenda tonight, you'll see that the board is approving a contract for the kindergarten center boiler replacement. So that's a new project that's beginning. Walk through the high school site today, and there is paint on the walls. There is bathrooms have emerged. There is tile in place. It looks like a school. It really does. So it's moving along very nicely. A lot of the technology wiring is done. Windows are in. It really has moved along. So we're right on schedule.
Thank you, and that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Burek. At this time, we move on to public comments. If you would like to address the board, please come up to the microphone, identify yourself, and whether you live in or out of residence.
So I came last week and I asked about that.
Push it toward you.
Perfect. So I came last week and I asked about labs. I also wrote a letter in February. In February, I was told we're looking into it. Well, 2 weeks ago. So now I'm back again, and I wanted to see if you have a further update.
Sure. Actually, I was in a hands-on lab this morning. In the middle school, the kids were actually working in small groups, doing the activity. And like I said before, I actually was in a high school class. I know you had mentioned chemistry. I was in the chemistry class when they did a demonstration lab so that the kids, both in the classroom and at home, could watch and actually learn from it. It was actually about the equilibrium principle. The teacher did parts of it in front of the room and parts underneath what they call the hood, because it needs the gases need to be trapped, and those things were live streamed for the kids at home too, to witness what the results were. So there are different types of labs going on, some more traditional and some, like I said, more demonstration.
But fully traditional, where the kids are doing the whole thing?
Yes, that was what was going on this morning in the middle school, correct.
And what about in the high school? Is that going to come back?
In each of the classes, we've spoken about it, and they're trying to take the opportunities, again, depending on what the nature of the lab is. Some are a little bit easier to do, given the conditions we're in right now, than others. So some will happen, traditionally. Some will happen, like I said, as demonstrations.
Okay, because it's super important. My next issue is paper tests, and I've already spoken to the teachers. I've spoken to the principal. Because know that I always do that before I come here. I think it is very, very important to bring paper tests back. I think it's a disadvantage to the kids that we don't have it. And every other district I've spoken to, they all have had paper tests all year.
No, I
My
really
son hasn't
don't
had
have-
one all year.
Sure. And I will tell you, we have been using the Learning management systems, as Dr. Lynch had said, that is something that we have pushed this year, and yes, most exams have happened that way. There are certain, again, assessments, I'm not going to say tests per se, but things that are being done on paper if it makes more sense that way for the kids that are in class. Obviously, we do have kids in each of the classes that are remote, so when you try to make the test, uniform across everybody taking it, it does actually make more sense for certain things to be on the computers.
But for math in particular, this year, at least in my son's class, there's no partial credit, which really traditionally in math, you want to show the work, you want the teacher to be able to see it, and you shouldn't lose 5 points on a question if you got more than half of it right. And there is a way in Schoology, or however you pronounce it, to give partial credit, but the teachers are choosing not to. And I think that's a disservice to the kids, because you shouldn't lose that many points, right, if you can show how you got there but did one thing wrong. So if you're going to insist on using the system, then you should use the system to its fullest potential to benefit the most number of kids.
As far as that's concerned, if the proper channel would be to address it with the teacher. If you've addressed it with the teacher and the principal and you want to call my office tomorrow, feel free and we can discuss that privately.
I just think it impacts so many kids across the district, which ties into my next question. Why are finals not on paper and or in person?
There's actually a lot of things going on during the finals week, and that is because of state aid. What has traditionally happened in the past, finals were given on Regents exam days. When a Regents exam is going on in your building, you do not need to conduct regular classes. This year, because the State Department canceled several of the Regents exams, those can no longer be considered Regents exam days. So regular classes must continue on pretty much a full schedule around those final exams. And logistically, given all the constraints that we have, this is the easiest way for us to get it accomplished, to both give the exam and to continue the instruction that day.
Then what's the argument for APs? Because those aren't given during Regents.
Well, APs are different. They're not all of the building at once, and it's a very specific to one course. When we give, let's say, a science final, everybody's in a science class. There are a lot more exams going on at the end. The AP is much more focused, and it's always happened that way here.
Right, but to me, it's a lot more stressful for a kid to do it at home. If there's a computer problem, a glitch, last year a bunch of kids had issues with different things. If they're in the building, there's the potential for someone to help them with a technical issue. If you're home, you miss out, you're done, you lose the credit.
Well, I don't think anybody misses out. What I think the classroom teachers are working on with the students is making sure that if somebody does have a problem, they knew who to contact here.
But it's still an added delay versus if you're in person taking the test. Look, all of my questions relate to the same thing. The kids deserve full-time, being back, paper tests, full education. And I feel like all these things are limiting it, and we're at the point where if other districts can do it, Lynbrook should be able to do it also.
There's a lot of things that, each place has their own scenarios and situations and buildings and room sizes, and this is something we've been all, very well aware of this year. I think, logistically, this is what makes sense for us.
And so in September, will we get paper tests back?
Well, I think September, as you heard from Dr. Burak, we're hoping that most things are returning to normal. So, that would include everything that we've been doing in the past. If we can do it, we'd like to move in that direction.
Okay, my next question is teachers that are teaching from home this year, are they going to have to be in person in September now that vaccines are widely available?
So with regard to teachers that have been working remotely from home, that's something that we're in the process of looking at right now to see which teachers would be able to return back to the building for the new school year.
Because I think there is a disconnect when the teacher is home, and I understand there's reasons why, whether it's them, a family member, but there's much less of a bond, really no bond, with the kids and the teachers when they're not face-to-face in the classroom.
Understood.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else from the community, moving on, I'd like to ask for a consent agenda on resolutions 2105C1 through 2105C9, 2105NC1 through 2105NC2, and 2105G1 through 2105G23. May I have a motion, please, Mrs. Danino, second, Mr. Pascoff. All in, can I have a motion to accept, no, all in favor? Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Mr. Yeager, second, Ms. Leslie, all in favor? That's good. All right, thank you very much. That concludes our meeting.